Welcome to All Things Chiropractic.
Well, welcome to another episode of All Things Chiropractic. I'm Paul Andrews.
And I'm Dr. Mark Davini.
We have a very special guest today. We're very excited.
Super, very special.
It is, actually. He carved out some time for us. We are very blessed to have him, Dr. Stu Hoffman. Hello.
Hey, nice to be with you. And I appreciate, not just giving you the time, but you offering up time for me to share with the audience. So thank you.
You're welcome. So we always ask our guests first to a 2-minute bio of you. Tell us about you.
Okay. The 2-minute version doesn't work, but we'll try. But I am a chiropractor. I've graduated Life University way back in the past century, 1981. And I have a family of chiropractors. I have my two brothers are both chiropractors. I have cousins, uh, growing up friends that all became chiropractors. So we have our own clan. And I didn't really have children that decided to go into chiropractic, probably because I shifted from being in active practice for many years into my role in malpractice insurance. And at the same time, they still always found a way to work with me and be part of chiropractic. And they do. And in fact, all three of my sons work within the ChiroSecure malpractice setting. My youngest one, Brandon, he overlaps with things that he does because he works within organizations that are within the World Health Organization itself, bringing ICD-11 coding into
Ah,
We should talk.
the world and things of that. But he does deal with safety and compliance through there as well. So either which way, I have a lot of family value in who we are and what we do. But I've also experienced a lot working with a lot of organizations, being on boards and being in charge of a lot of different organizational pieces. And at this point in my life, it's looking backward more than forward, and I get to still support what a lot of organizations are doing. I get to have a voice in that, and we've shifted somewhat to be a voice within the Maha movement as well. So there's just so many different things happening, and we want to, as an ChiroSecure organization, be able to make a difference. And the last thing I'll say is, even though we're an insurance company protecting chiropractors, our mission is really about the public. It's our mission is to change the public perception of chiropractic, and we work off of that, and all of our staff work off of that. And as a result, all of the chiropractors that we deal with, the thousands and thousands, they are basically our patients. And we do what we can to educate them, to educate the public, and make a difference.
so when do you sleep?
Yeah.
I sleep pretty early, as a matter of fact, each night. I'm up very early. I'm always the first one in the office by 5:45 or so. Uh, but I do leave a little bit early these days. So,
Good
So
deal.
tell us, Doc, what steered you into becoming a chiropractor?
yeah, that's good. There were uh, three very specific things that happened. First and foremost, my family, for whatever reason, had always gone to chiropractors. My great grandmother went to Willie Weisberg in the Bronx, New York,
Oh,
back in the 1940s, probably. And coincidentally, I'm going to say it that way, in the family tree, she died at the oldest age of anyone in the entire family. And so my mother was the lead in that and always went and took us. But my brother Bob, he wound up with mono. And the medical doctor said, "Oh, he's gonna be down for, whatever amount of time it was. It's a serious case." She said, "Should I take him to the chiropractor?" Are you crazy? Don't
Yeah.
ever even do that. So my mother, of course,
Oh,
on the way home, went right to the chiropractor's office. His name was Danny Klein. Great guy. He's not with us any longer. But in less than a week, all of his blood work was normal. And it was impactful enough that Bob decided right then and there he was going to become a chiropractor. And Bob's always been a big, big influence on me, my life, and my career as well. He's an older brother. So that happened. But when I was 18, I drove or was driving to the Good Life in California and with a cousin of mine. And I got into a car accident, literally driving into a cement wall in the middle of the night. What happened? Who knows? I probably fell asleep. But high impact on a little tiny Fiat vehicle.
Wow. Yeah.
And
they don't go together.
yeah, and he was in front of me driving, saw headlights go down, stopped, waved down truckers, blah, blah, blah. And I'm in this little rinky dink hospital and needed to be transferred. Well, my mother, my brother, they come out, and my brother is still a student at that time. And even though you're not supposed to be doing these things, even though as a risk management person, I would kill you for this, uh, he came right in there with me, hooked up to everything, and adjusted me. And 3
You don't see
hours
that today.
later,
Yeah, you
normal
wouldn't see that
vitals.
today. Yeah.
I know it was a
Yeah.
different time, different place. You're talking 1975,
Wow.
and he took care of me right then and there. That same day, I was able to be transferred to a bigger and more appropriate facility, and never looked back. So there's different things happen in your life. Uh, at that point in time, I knew it wasn't something I was choosing. It's something that happened to me.
Chose
And,
you.
again, like
Yeah.
I say, never look back.
Yeah. So, I graduated the same year you did. And so through all these years, we've noticed a lot of, we'll say, evolution of the
Yeah.
profession. What are some of your observations as far as how the profession has changed?
Yeah. Yeah. I see a lot of evolution, as I'm sure you do too. Um, when I was getting out of school, I mentioned I went to Life in Georgia, and Sid Williams was, a mentor to me, of course, because that's why I went there. And I worked with my older brother Steve for 9 months up in Michigan, decided to stay there, but go and open my own practice. And I open up, well, it's quiet, you know? And I get a call on the telephone and it's Sid Williams. "How's it going, boy?" "Oh, it's going," you know? And it became embarrassing. And he said, "You got to get out of that office and you need to go knock on doors and introduce yourself." I said, "Oh my God, I'm from New York City. You just
Forget
don't do
about it.
that." And, but he said to do it. I kept the faith. I did it one night and I went, knocked, and by and large, everyone was so nice. Um, one or two, maybe not so much, but everyone was really good. Did not get one patient out of that entire experience, hated every minute of it, but some of those people actually referred other people into me. It was really weird.
Wow.
You never know where
And,
it's going to come from,
things
right?
yeah, things
Yeah.
started taking off, and, I shortly after that, I believe everyone needs coaches, and, that's what you do. And, but I connected because I was told to. I went 2.5 hours away to listen to David Singer way back then, And after the talk, which I thought was great, but it was irrelevant because afterwards he sat me down. He said, "So what are you doing?" I said, "What do you mean, what am I doing? I just opened my practice." And he said, "Okay, tell me what you're doing." I just got a brand new credit card with $5,000 of credit on it. He was charging $5,000 at the time. I gave him the credit card. In about 45 minutes of sitting down with him, I used to tell this story for people a lot. Um, I already built the practice and made enough money before the first 6 weeks when I was going to go to the first seminar to have paid for the whole thing, and kept going from there. But because of that, I was able to start hiring a first associate. And, over all of these years, I've had over 50 associates work with me. Some became partners, some bought me out, different situations over time. But associateships were really big back then. Practicing in Michigan, there were massive practices and a lot of associates. And that was a great way to go. And I saw that as, how things just are. But, insurance was great in the 1980s, and then the 90s came and
The
things
Mercedes
changed.
80s. Yeah.
Yeah, the Mercedes 80s, but the
Yeah.
90s came and it was HMOs. Even though they'd been around for so many years, they became big all of a sudden. And it was one way to exclude us as a profession. And, I was one of those chiropractors that was just pissed off about it. But thank God I was really good at being able to share how cash works, within the practice. And I never had an issue because of that, where a lot of chiropractors did. And it was challenging.
That's
But
still a
it came,
problem today.
yeah, well, and I know you do. It's all about communication and your own confidence in who you are and what you do. And I didn't lack that. So it was all okay for me. And, but over the last number of years, coming more up to date, uh, I've been talking when I go around the country and speak that we are now probably 20 to 30 years behind the medical profession, which is not unusual for us, but they became totally corporate. And I see chiropractic as being in that transition of becoming a totally corporate group. And I kind of think it's a good thing, which a lot of people are surprised when I'm the one saying that. But I do. I think it's good because numbers are important, and the amount of money that people are in debt when they come out of school today. I had $12,000 of debt coming out in 1981, and thought that was crazy. But it's a whole different world now, and going to open your own office, it is so much putting people in the hole because we do it one at a time, with exception. Corporate, you go work with a Chiro One or the Joint or a Health Source or 100%. There's a number of them out there, and they've had a roller coaster ride too. Some good things, some not so good. But what it does is it at least gives the doctors, uh, I think, a little bit more stability, and I think we're going to see that evolve into many more. Types of practice, whether it be more multidisciplinary and or just multiple doctors in that same space, whether it be an associateship, independent contractor, or partnerships, whatever it turns out to be, because you just at such a disadvantage compared to all the other professions in terms of your cost factor against the slower increases we get to see in reimbursement levels compared to some of the other providers.
How do you
Things
pivot
happen.
from a chiropractor to a whole malpractice?
A
So
CEO.
this is
Yeah.
how it works.
I mean, that's
I'll tell you,
crazy to me.
yeah, it's crazy to me too. And so what happened was when I was practicing in Michigan, I was also the convention chairman for the association. And we were very successful in putting on our conventions. And then we were related to the International Chiropractors Association. The new president was going to be Jim Gregg, who's still practicing up in Michigan, and another mentor, massive practice for, 50 years at this point or more. And he said to me, I want you to be the convention chairman. No, he said, I want a malpractice program for the ICA. I said, well, I don't want to do that. he said, he said, but that's what
That
we
doesn't sound
need.
fun, right?
I said, I'll do it if I can also be convention chairman because I love doing that. He said, okay, but that's something that we need. No one expected it to happen, but I was able to, this is before cell phones, fax machines, everything else. And I was able to make connection to connection to connection to get me to a company that allowed us to write a policy that they backed. And we did it as a committee of 5 of us, including the late Jerry Clum, who was my number 1 mentor, period, in life. And we actually made it happen. And so we had a broker that worked with us, and the company we utilized started buying out other insurance companies, which is not unusual. But in the mid 1990s, trying to coordinate computer programs amongst these major companies didn't work so well. And people weren't getting their billing, things just weren't going great. And we needed to move. And so found another company and they said, "Hey, can work directly with you, but you've got to get licensed." I said, "Licensed? I swear I'd never take another test as long as I live." Uh, but there you go. Never say never. So I did. I had to ultimately get licensed in 50 states and made it happen, worked with them, and we met some uh, really, really great people in the insurance world. And for the last 15, 16, 18 years, something like that, we've been working with the same people. And I, I love it. But I didn't get into it because it was something I saw a need for or wanted.
Mm.
It was something that there was a need, but the doctors are my patients. And once I adopted that mentality, my God, it's been nothing but a great life. I can tell you that. Working with chiropractors, knowing the cream of the crop in the profession, the speakers, the politicians on all ends of the aisle.
Mm.
And, you know, it's been a blessed life as a result. But, you know, as a parent company, this is our 40th anniversary, and at our holiday party next year, I am inviting Jim Gregg and a couple of others
Nice.
that have made me who I am today.
Do you think
Well,
the younger generation of chiropractors get that? Because, you know, when I started as a CA 20 plus
Mhm.
years ago, it was very common that the chiropractors in the area would get together, they'd adjust each other. The new one would come in, they'd be welcomed, and it doesn't seem like that happens quite as much today.
Mhm.
I
They
Paul, I
look at
think
everybody as a
you're right.
competitor now.
Yeah. Uh, People are in their bubble. You know, again, everything has a pro and a con to it. Social media is great, but it keeps people locked in their screen, in their little room, in their office. And, I had to get out. And I gave that story of knocking on doors, but really that was just a start. I was able to make connections with people in the community to, you know, um, start doing talks out of the office and One thing leads to another. Someone took me up to a union. They wouldn't let me drive my car there because it wasn't an American car. And they said, you won't have wheels when you come
Well, you're
out.
in Michigan, right?
Yeah, yeah. And so,
Oh,
I wound up with all of these different scenarios that were just terrific. But today, you don't see as much of the hustle. You don't see as much of the commitment to the why of chiropractic. I went in because of my own personal experience in being alive because of chiropractic. And so I have a little bit of a unique bond, and I've literally given my life to this profession because I think it's important. And I don't need to go to all of these meetings. I don't need to do a lot of things, but I do because someone needs to share their experience and give someone else that little why so that maybe that spark will ignite in them. And that's why I go out and do uh, seminars and presentations, uh, not because I need it. Will we get more business? Well, sometimes we do because people relate to you and they get your commitment. They get to understand, in some of those talks, we talk about policy and what you should have and all of those things. And people, uh, form a rapport and a trust, and that's really great. But that's not the big thing. We have a steady, steady flow. We've never had a year that wasn't over the previous year, ever since the day we started. So, the newer doctors, it is concerning. It
what
is
can you
concerning.
say to the newer doctors if you feel there's something like to get them to understand the bigger picture of
Yeah.
chiropractic, using all these old phrases we can get on forever, but understanding the big picture and recognizing that we're beyond just a symptom based, condition based treatment.
Yeah.
What would you say to a young doctor?
Well, we started out this conversation with me saying everyone needs a coach. And there are some uh, people out there that are doing a really good job with the newer graduates. And I think that's very important because there's a lot of different types of coaching programs for different reasons. And, uh, you know, I, there's some that are really hooked into the why of chiropractic. And I know directly how they've helped bring a lot of the newer generation into that fold. So it's not hopeless in any way, not to me. I think, and I've thought over the last couple of years, with Bobby Kennedy as HHS now and the Maha movement, not everything's perfect. Not everything's the way I would want it to be, but it is as a chiropractor, it is our greatest opportunity that we've ever seen since the day D. D. Palmer. D. D. Umber was the other person I'm inviting. Uh, D. D. Palmer laid his hands on Harvey Lillard, and I still believe that. And I'm in touch with a lot of the people that matter. It is something that's very important to me. Politics, being involved politically has never been my thing, but if I could connect the dots, make a difference, uh, it's gonna just allow chiropractic as a profession to explode, and I think that will help the newer generation in and of itself.
Do you feel that maybe in a sense the schools the diversity in the schools presentation of chiropractic and being kind, where there's such a range of those schools that won't even let you use the word subluxation all the way up to the other side of the coin, creating this issue where we're getting a number of students now coming out, a large percentage of students coming out that only believe chiropractic is another medical modality.
Yeah, uh, I think we're gonna always have that as a
Mm.
profession. You know, I support a number of the schools on a personal level, and I don't agree with 100% of what some of them do, but the ones that are our best hope is what I support personally. And, we have the biggest school in the world in Georgia. Not everyone appreciates them, but I do. And I am a big supporter in any and every way I can be to them and to the student body. You have Life West. They're doing a hell of a job. There's others too. I shouldn't need to single those out. Um, but I can
Well, one is
also
your alma mater, so why wouldn't you, right?
yeah. Well, some people don't appreciate their own.
Yeah.
I believe in never forgetting where I came from and giving back. Uh, but there's others that I deal with that are not exactly what you're saying about no subluxation, but they're more diversified in having other professions associated within the school, and um, they have a broader approach.
Right.
I'm open to that. I don't see that as a problem as long as we know what chiropractic is and what chiropractic is not.
Is the
And
line right
that's
there.
where I stand with it.
Yeah, that's the line right there. So,
Yeah.
How do you suppose these younger docs, I mean, the mentality, because they come out so heavily in debt, is a focus on obviously crawling out of that debt. And so we all know that when you're focusing on that, you're not focusing on your profession, the patient care as much because there's this urgency, right? To
Yeah.
and so you're talking about. I think getting a coach is great, but if that's another expense,
Yep.
how do they handle that?
Well, I think that that's a great question. I think that one thing that I was taught very early on is you're describing survival. And it's really true. But it's about taking somebody in survival and getting them into service. Two different ends of the coin. And when they're coming out with that kind of debt, compared to, historical numbers, most of them are going to work somewhere, not open up their own practice. That's how they see learning and paying their bills. And there's programs to get them out of that debt if they are servicing through a nonprofit organization. And, there's all kinds of things today that didn't exist once upon a time. And even I have mixed feelings about some of them, but most of the students that are graduating are going to work for, people think good and bad about groups like the Joint, but the Joint changed the profession. And it changed it in a lot of ways. And one of the ways is that you actually had to pay people that graduated as a chiropractor to actually work for you. It's not, I'm going to give you $100 a week and give you some food when you come to work, and you're going to learn what I do. And that's, the deal. Uh, that did happen 40 to 50 years ago, but it's now where they're getting somewhat of a fair wage as a starting point. But you're still going to always have some people that have more backing than others. And those people, they're going to need your services. They're going to need other people's services as well.
oh, wow.
So, in relative to malpractice, I'm just curious, like in today's world, what do you see as sort of the most common claims versus what maybe you saw a few decades ago?
Yeah, it hasn't changed much. Um, the number one injury claim is a broken rib. So stop wailing on someone's back. If it doesn't go, there's a reason, and it could be them, it could be you. But I
Well, let
do
me
like.
ask you, Stu, when you see those YouTube videos of these ring dingers and all this,
Those are not happy things in this office. Let's just say it that way. It's
I don't
not
know how
good.
that's good marketing because I just look at it and go, how would anyone want to subject themselves when they see it that way? Like,
If you actually follow the string of comments afterwards, it just ties right into the quackery concept from all those years ago. And, in terms of public perception. So, no, but we do get those broken ribs. I like instrument adjusting for that reason, but the stroke issue is not anything we can ignore. It's more and more every single day. And when I first started out in this all those years ago, if we had one a year,
Mm.
oh my God, what am I going to do? Because it can turn your program upside down until you have lots of numbers. Well, we have in excess of 25,000 chiropractors, so we can sustain a lot more than, when you have 1,000. And, um, but we get those calls all day long. And 3 people in this office, myself and 2 of my sons, take all the doctor calls. And we're able to really coach them how to de escalate a lot of these situations because the communication it needs help. Let's just say it that way. And we've been able to help avoid a lot of these situations from becoming claims. But sometimes they just do. And, eh, we get to deal with it. But, we have the number one attorney in the world that researched how to defend a stroke claim based on the actual science of saying chiropractor can't physiologically and anatomically cause a stroke. So we're in good hands from that perspective. But, it's something we have to deal with day in and day out. Yeah.
Well, thank you for that because I think that's important to be said,
Yeah, it's
especially in
important to
the
be
world
said,
today.
but not fearful of,
Mhm.
because doctors can hear this and say, oh my God, I better not adjust their neck. No, I'm in charge of malpractice. I want you adjusting them. I just want you to do it the way you were taught. Do it with skill and mastery and let everything else work for you
Yeah,
because
the
when you're
risks
focused,
themselves, yeah, the risks haven't changed, but like you said, the need for greater and better communication has
yeah,
changed, but the
yeah.
risk itself hasn't changed.
Well, the risk has changed in this sense. From the 1980s till today, people are on a lot more drugs,
Mm,
and some of those drugs affect blood flow, they affect the vessels. Uh, there's a number of factors, and it's not just the pharmaceutical changes, but there are changes that have happened in addition to the risk is always there. But has
well,
it
and that's what I
changed?
mean by communication. Part of the process is to has always been to assess what their history, what they do, what their lifestyles are, their particular
Yeah,
condition, so yeah, we have more factors like different drugs and post-COVID and all this other stuff that we have to consider, and doctors have to be able to communicate with their patients, get all the facts, and then make a decision like we've always had to do.
yeah, that's exactly right.
Yeah.
You got it spot on.
so when a doctor sees a potential issue bubbling up, what's their best approach?
Yeah, I can only talk for our doctors that we insure. The best approach is not to be afraid to call your malpractice company. It's not a strike against you. That's the fear. You're going to have to report it anyway if it becomes an issue, and an actual claim or board complaint or whatever, because everyone renews policies every year, and you have to put down what happened. So don't wait. Don't hesitate. Contact because if you do it quick enough, there's a lot of times we can actually, as I said, help de escalate a situation right then and there. Yeah.
Excellent advice.
Good
Yeah.
advice.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Well,
Yeah.
thank you. Really, we appreciate all of your insight, your knowledge, your experience. It's
Yeah, and I
valuable.
love what you do as well. I hope that the people that watch this are already connected to tools of practice. I was referred to you through a mutual friend and client. And, I love what you do.
Thank you.
And if
Thank you.
they're not with you, check in, right?
Check in.
And see what help is there. As I said, we all need coaches. And, in the way we work, there's so many different things. And we act as a coach when it's the risk management end of things. It's not one coach serves everything. We need to be able to get the best of the best.
Well, who's
appreciate
going to
you very
argue
much.
that, Dr.
Thank you.
Hoffman? Thank you so
Yeah.
much. I appreciate
My
that.
pleasure. My
Well,
pleasure.
On that note, thank you again for joining us for another episode of All Things Chiropractic. I'm Paul Andrews.
Dr. Mark Davini and
Dr.
Mr.
Stu
Stu.
Hoffman. Have a great day.
Have a great day. Bye-bye.
Thanks for listening to All Things Chiropractic. We'd love to hear from you. Visit allthingschiropractic.com with comments, episode ideas, or questions. Or connect with us on Facebook and Instagram at All Things Chiropractic Podcast. Be sure to join Dr. Mark Davini and Paul Andrews next time for another episode of All Things Chiropractic.